Kevin Burke is a licensed social worker and co-founder of Rachel's Vineyard, offering abortion recovery support groups and retreat models for 48 states and 25 countries. Kevin is a pastoral associate of Priests for Life and has co-authored 2 books with Teresa Burke and Father Frank Pavone, Redeeming a Father's Heart. Men share powerful stories of abortion loss and recovery, and also Sharing the Heart of Christ, Safe and Effective Post-Abortion Ministry for Clergy and Counselors. Today, Kevin will address the impact of abortion on men. Kevin?
I think this is mine, yes. Yeah. In case you're wondering, how many people are coming forward for healing, I would say we're barely scratching the surface of the need that exists. But in our own little corner of Rachel's Vineyard, you can see the increase in the demand for our services since we began in 1995. These are the Rachel's Vineyard retreat locations in the United States, and this is a bit of an outdated map of our expansion around the world. Just to say that what I shared with you today is based on the experience of thousands of men and women that we encounter in our work in post-abortion ministry. You'll hear advocates of abortion say that abortion is a private personal decision between a woman, her health care provider, and her God. Like a lot of sound bites, what's the truth on the ground for people who are having abortions and are making abortion decisions? In 95% of the cases, the research shows that a man is an integral part of the abortion decision and the decision of the mother to have that abortion or to parent that child. You may wonder, you've heard some powerful testimony today that clearly indicates that emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, abortion can be experienced by a woman as a traumatic event in her life. But can a man experience abortion as a trauma? I think it's a very fair question to ask because they obviously don't undergo the procedure. In Redeeming Our Father's Heart, I present a number of cases of men who do, but I want to actually present on a very high-profile individual who has been public about his abortion. Steven Tyler, I'm sure you're very aware, rock star, American Idol judge, a prolific songwriter, still, even now, a wonderful performer of his music. He also is public in his biography, Walk This Way, that he is a post-abortive father. I wrote about this. It was originally in National Review Online, then it was in LifeSite News and Life News and other places. My article on Stephen was called Jesus, What Have I Done? His encounter with abortion trauma. In 1975, Steven Tyler began a 3-year relationship with Julia Holcomb. Julia was 16 years old at the time. They both fell in love, and they both talked about wanting to start a family. When she became pregnant, however, he became very concerned. It appears that it would interfere with his career path, and his family also rejected the idea of getting married to Julia. And so he coerced her to have, and pressured her to have a later-term abortion. In the National Review Online piece on Steven Tyler, Stephen is quoted from the biography of Aerosmith, the band, his experience in the procedure room when his son was being aborted. Stephen says, you go to the doctor and they put a needle in her belly and it comes out dead. I was devastated. In my mind, I'm going, Jesus, what have I done? Later, when Julia Holcomb shared her version of these horrific events, we learned that the child was actually born alive, and that apparently somehow the child's life was ended by the hospital personnel. In the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, called the DSM, the current one I believe is DSM-4, it's a standard classification of mental disorders that's used by mental health professionals all across the United States. The DSM-4 defines a traumatic event as follows. The person experienced, witnessed, or was confronted with an event or events that involved actual or threatened death or serious injury, or a threat to the physical integrity of self or others. The person's response involved intense fear, helplessness, and horror. And recall the words of Steven Tyler when he talked about that abortion experience. He comes out dead. I was devastated. And he asked himself, what have I done? This is a man who was intimately involved with a death event. And how did he deal with his feelings and his memories and his experience of that abortion? Well, like a lot of folks, you numb and you run from the pain. In the same biography, Walk This Way, near the end of his relationship with Julia Holcomb, he began an affair with a model, Bebe Buell, and she talks about his experience during that time after the abortion and what she was witnessing in her relationship with Stephen. They went on a European concert tour together, and she says he was crazy. He was totally drunk, out of it. He destroyed dressing rooms at Hammersmith. When we got back from Europe, I found him in the floor of his bathroom having a drug seizure. He was writhing in pain. This was followed by what Stephen called his two-and-all days, very heavy-duty barbiturate, and he calls this period blackout stuff. So here you have the dysfunctional recipe for dealing with post-abortion stress. Her account is powerful, it's riveting, it's extremely painful, but yet in the end it's also very, very redemptive. And we discover many things about Julia in her post-abortive journey. Well, one she discovered is she has a vocation for religious art, and she paints icons. Here's a beautiful one that she has done. So please read her story if you get an opportunity as part of your story. 3. You might rightly ask yourself, all right, Steven Tyler was intimately involved in a very traumatic abortion. But how most of the majority of men, are they impacted in a negative way? It's a fair question. Arthur Shostak accompanied, he's a Drexel University professor. He accompanied his partner to an abortion center. They were pregnant. They were both pro-abortion. I suspect he did not think he would have any negative emotional reaction to that abortion. He was surprised how powerful the emotions were being part of that abortion experience. Part of his way of dealing with that was to use his expertise and to research over 1,000 men at clinics all across the country and to exit interviews. And here's what he found in his research. 1 in 4 of the men he studied thought abortion was murder. Over 80% think of the child that might have been born, and a third think of that child frequently. Now, here's a whole group of 1,000 men, just a little tip of the iceberg of the millions of men involved in abortion. If they're that intimately connected with the fact that they were, again, involved in some fashion in the death of their unborn child, then we know from all the psychological literature and our experience with those who experience trauma, we know there's going to be symptoms in their life, in their relationships, in their marriages. They're going to be acting out on that pain. Some of them are going to take their life. And some men do take their life. Sometimes we don't know, we don't see in the obituary that abortion was the cause, but they're acting out as connected to shame and rage and about an abortion experience. We know that from our work at Rachel's Vineyard is expanding into prison ministry. And a number of the men who are coming through those programs are tying much of their acting out behavior, their criminal behavior, they're tying that in at least in part, and sometimes exclusively, to their involvement in abortion decisions with their partners. So there is a tremendous need for men to not only understand the symptoms of post-abortion healing, post-abortion trauma and suffering, but to also find healing. Thank you.